Good evening, gentlemen. This is a quick video for Sean Corbett over the subject of close coupled T's and fixed rate bypasses. There's a lot of confusion over this hydraulic design issues surrounding underfloor heating, and this is mainly brought about by the use of modulating controls. Basically, if we've got a high temperature supply and we're blasting water out of a boiler at 70-80 degrees, there's really not a lot to worry about. Your underfloor heating will generally work okay. Your blending valve will remain closed most of the time, and issues of hydraulic separation won't be a big thing. But once we start following Boiler Plus and applying modulating controls, things get somewhat more complicated, and this is a big problem. That they've not addressed this at all, and they're not explaining the hydraulic issues around low temperature supply. And anyway, this is the Vstream schematic. It's pretty much copied straight out of the Vstream book. They're using hydraulic separation at this point, and I think this is on all of the drawings now. They use a mixing valve and they use a fixed rate bypass. Not in all the drawings, but in some of them they use one on these drawings. And sometimes you'll need that, sometimes you won't. But now Adam's on Heat Geek has done a video explaining an alternative to close coupled T's. And it seems to be that people are thinking it is close coupled T's. What he's in fact done is used the Vstream design. He's got the pump on the return, which confuses issues, and there's a little bit of a dog leg in this pipe work here because he couldn't fit in on his installation. But basically all he's done is used the Vstream fixed rate bypass system rather than using a close coupled T. And what this does, by allowing some of the flow to be recirculating through this system, we don't need to draw high flow rates in from the external system. But this works well with Vstream because the mixing valve is sending a signal back to the boiler, which controls the temperature being supplied into the low loss header. So if we require a higher temperature to be achieved by this mixed water through this fixed rate bypass, the Vstream boiler can compensate for all of this and provide the correct mix. However, if you're using sort of, well, you wouldn't be talking about close coupled T's if you're using the Vstream design anyway, unless you were replacing the header with close coupled T's, in which case none of this would be an issue. And if you're not using a Vstream boiler, then really you probably don't want to be doing that design. It may work, but it's probably not that logical. What you really want to do is to put in your closely coupled T's or your low loss header, and then supply off your underfloor heating system after that. So the underfloor heating system can take whatever flow rate it requires, and your radiators get the flow rate they required. And what people have been doing is putting in close coupled T's. I'm redrawing this out. I'm trying to rush this video out a little bit for a conversation. Putting close coupled T's in before a standard manifold. And this just creates a short circuit. Basically, the water from the boiler pump can just rush straight through that close coupled T, and there's just nothing left to run the radiators. You might get them to function, but they're not going to be getting the same flow rate as when the valve on the underfloor is closed. Yeah, it's just poor design. I'll try and draw up some more on this and try and do a better explanation of it. This is quite complicated unless you come on the events that we run and really cover this in depth from the beginning. It gets very complicated at this stage to explain it all. And I do encourage you all to come on the events and learn this from scratch. Don't try and pick it up halfway through. It gets very, very confusing, and I can see a lot of people are getting very confused.